Welcome to part 2 of the Woodland Hostel renovation. In part 1, I renovated the exterior, and in this part we'll be furnishing it. You don't need to watch part 1 to watch this if you're only interested in the furnishing part of the renovation. But if you are interested, I'll link part 1 down below. I start furnishing from the dining room that's next to an open floor plan kitchen. Dining rooms are usually my least favorite to furnish, just because there's not much you can put in them. So it's nice to start off with that, kind of get the least favorite part out of the way. That being said, I do like how this one turns out. My favorite rooms to furnish usually are, I think, living rooms and kitchens. Bedrooms are also up there, but for some reason I like doing bathrooms. Maybe because they're so fast and easy to do. They're so small and there's only so much you can put in them. Originally, I was gonna go with a black and white color scheme on the inside, plus the mahogany wood tones. But I decided, because the outside was filled with colorful flowers, I wanted the inside to have the same vibe as well, like very bright and colorful, and specifically warm toned bright, like a lot of yellows, oranges and reds. I do mix in a bunch of green as well, because there's a lot of plants. I think plants fit the like cozy cabin vibe, like a down-to-earth sort of feel, which I think fits the Woodland Hostel because it's built in the middle of the forest. And I like how the plants and greens break it up a little bit. It brings some contrast, just enough change in tone so it's not all just warm colors. And it's a yellowish toned green, so it ties it all in really well. I also made all the lights warm toned. I think it fits the cozy cabin, even though the style is very modern and all the floors are very white. I think the warm toned lights just bring it a little something it needs, like a little coziness. I do wish you could recolor lights even more. Like in House Flipper 1 we had these fairy lights, or like hangable light bulbs that could be made pretty much any color you wanted. I wish we had more of those. And House Flipper 1 even had these LED lights that could also be colored. I wish we could do that for any light in House Flipper 2. You know, just choose the color of the light. Sometimes the lighting just brings a lot to a room. It can change the whole vibe. I'd love to be able to do like gaming setups or like bachelor pads that have like a bright turquoise lighting or something. I do wish we had those light bulbs back from House Flipper 1 anyway, but I tend to use vines in House Flipper 2 instead of those. I use those a lot in the first game, and like I did here as well, I usually just replace those with vines. We have some great vine options in this game, so I use those a lot everywhere. I even ended up using vines instead of curtains in this build. Again, the earthy feel fits with the cozy cabin, I think. And I even use a lot of moss on the walls. We also had these really pretty plant walls in House Flipper 1. Unfortunately, we don't have anything like that in House Flipper 2. But we do have those vines and the moss surface finish, so I use those a lot. I do wish I could finish it all off with the hanging light bulbs though. There's this tiny molding piece that can ignore collisions. Usually you can't do that unless you're in sandbox mode. But that tiny resizable molding piece is really handy to use in story mode, because you can resize it into other objects. For example, sometimes cabinets in the kitchen leave a tiny little gap between the fridge and the cabinets, so you can put that in between to close it off. And I use it to make a built-in fireplace, for example. It's just very versatile. I should have probably added more bedrooms into this house while doing the floor plan, because the house is quite big, but it was kind of hard to figure out where to put them because of the loft I have. Technically there would have been space in the middle floor, but then you would have had to walk upstairs through another bedroom, so I guess that would have been kind of weird. So instead there's a lot of living areas. Also there ended up being a lot of bathrooms, I realized that, but I make one of them into a laundry room and one of them into a half bathroom, so I guess that's fine for a one-bedroom house. I guess I anticipated the house would have been bigger, because it used to be a hotel, but in the end there wasn't that much room. I had to pull it in a little bit from the sides so I could fit the dormers in, and because of the loft, the space was kind of limited in the end. But don't get me wrong, I love how it turned out. I just anticipated there would have been more bedrooms. I used those molding pieces I mentioned before to add some columns to the inner corners, because I used surface finish to add columns to the outer corners, so I wanted to have something on the inner corners too. But using surface finishes I thought would have made them look too big, so I used molding pieces instead. And I also used those molding pieces as curtain rods, because I didn't use actual curtains as curtains, so I had to have something there to look like it wasn't just vines. I wish this game had higher ladders. We do have that tiny one, like a 2-step one, and luckily you can stack them, so you can put them on top of each other and still get to high places. But it would be nice to have a regular sized one. I guess it would be faster to use. When I was taking end screenshots of this house, I realized one of the molding pieces had fallen off from the front, so I had to stack like 20 tiny ladders to get to it and replace it. I couldn't put a scaffolding piece down because of my landscaping, it wouldn't let me. It would be kinda handy to have the grappling hook back from House Flipper 1. Or if they added something totally new, like a jetpack or something. Sometimes it's just annoying to get around in this game. Nothing's impossible, but sometimes it takes a long time when you, for example, can't place ladders down because of landscaping. I also wish there was a group move tool, like selecting multiple objects and moving all of them at once, instead of having to move things one by one. For example, when you're moving dining tables, it's annoying to move all of the chairs separately, and I understand that it wouldn't be realistic to be able to move a table and 4 chairs at once, but the character also can't grab multiple books at once, for example, and that would be realistic to be able to do. Even if they didn't do it in story mode, it would be nice to be able to do at least in sandbox. Anyway, I had to make room for an island counter in the kitchen, that's why I had to move the table in the first place. I needed to figure out something to take up all the space in the kitchen. I knew I wanted to have an island already. I love open floor plan kitchens, but with the dining room not taking up so much space, I wanted to make a big island. It was a bit hard to assemble because of the shape, but I figured it out in the end. Also, I realized I forgot to put a sink in the kitchen, and if you were screaming to me about that, I'm sorry. I do realize it later on. Yeah, I realized it when cluttering. I'm trying to put a dish rack next to the sink. It's when I realized there isn't one. So don't worry, I will put one in later on. I also had to put in a lot of lights for this build, just because all of the lights are so yellow toned, they're kinda dim. But I think it works out in my favor, because I do love the spotlights next to the plant walls and stuff. For the paintings in this build, I used Adobe Firefly. It's an AI text-to-image generator. I don't know why I never thought about using AI image generators for builds before, but I think all the paintings ended up looking so nice. I used the same program for my underwater build for Windows before. I'll link that build down below for you if you want to watch that too. But I don't know how it never occurred to me that I could just use it for regular artwork too, which I did in this one finally. It's so handy because you can basically get anything you happen to need at any given moment. Like you can put in color schemes and stuff too. Like I generated orange cherry blossoms because they fit my color scheme better than pink ones, even though orange ones don't normally exist. And for one of the bathrooms, I generated toilet paper surrounded by pretty flowers that fit my color scheme exactly. I feel like that would be very hard to find otherwise, but with Adobe Firefly it was really handy. Let me know if I should include generating the paintings in the videos. That is a little bit of a process too. You have to find the right prompt and stuff. Might take a few tries to get exactly what you need, just because, well, it is AI. Doesn't really understand how physics work and stuff. And I did end up generating a lot of pretty art I didn't end up using also. So let me know if you'd like to see that process. I also divided some of the paintings into 3 or 5 parts using Photoshop. I do like the look that it makes, so I use that technique a lot. Also, sorry I'm complaining so much in this video, but why don't the plants fit the pots? And I'm not talking about regular plants, I'm talking about hanging plants. None of the hanging plants fit the hanging pots the way they look like they're supposed to fit. Like they always end up clipping. I feel like the hanging plants need their collision box to be a lot smaller. I don't know, they just always end up looking a bit weird. Or some of the plants you just can't use because they look so odd. I end up ignoring it a lot. It's like, well, there's nothing you can do about it, so I'll just pretend it's not happening. Because of the shape of the island, it did leave a little gap in the middle. At first I was gonna use a molding piece to fill it up, but then I realized that would make the counter like really big and hard to clutter. So I ended up putting a column there instead. It was a good excuse to use more plants too. Also, I tried replacing the white floors with mahogany. I thought the white floors looked a bit cold, but I thought the mahogany looked like a bit much, so I changed it back. The warm lighting makes up for it a lot. And all the colorful furniture and rugs and plants. It all comes together in the end. Also, the wooden floors in the kitchen were kind of cringe, so I changed that into tile. Also, you can probably hear it, but I am a bit sick right now, and I cut the coughing off the voiceover, of course, but it is a bit hard for me to talk right now. I hope it's okay that the voiceover is a bit shorter today. If you want to support me, leave a like and a comment. If you want to see more of my content, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you everyone for being here, and enjoy the rest of the video.
first flight of the orbital Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower. Discovery's 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions. of the orbital Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower. Discovery's 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
That's one small step for man,